Hi everyone, my name is Sarah, and I want to tell you a story about how I spent last summer vacation and celebrated my birthday. I will definitely never forget such a holiday. For my birthday, my friends gave me a small trip under the water. I wasn't very good at swimming, but I was very curious to see what was under the water. Actually, to tell the truth, it was my first birthday that I was going to celebrate, which is why the girls decided that this day should be special. The fact is that for as long as I can remember, my mother and I have never celebrated. Nothing. No holiday, no New Year, no Christmas, nothing at all. It was all about saving money. The fact is that my father was very ill. He was bedridden after a stroke and couldn't walk, and couldn't actually move. He was like a vegetable. Accordingly, he needed constant medical supervision, massages, medications, and all that cost a lot of money. We saved almost all our lives. My mother took care of my father for 15 years, so when I was born, he was already like this. I can't imagine how my mother raised me and took care of a sick husband. Dad understood and saw everything, even though he couldn't show it. He saw how hard it was for his wife, and he began to hate himself. In general, he committed suicide. Somehow he managed to cut off his oxygen supply. My mother was very ill, and so was I, but she held on. 2 years had passed since my father's death, and my mother said that it was time for me to experience what childhood was like, because I never had one. I was happy and told my friends about it, so they decided to make an unforgettable gift. We chose a sunny day and went to the sea. Although I was very worried, I was still looking forward to this event with impatience. I liked all sorts of unusual types of recreation. My friends and I took a day off from our parents, took swimsuits, a special camera to take pictures underwater, some food, and went to the sea. The mood was great. I was looking forward to a great holiday and cool photos. Upon arrival, we immediately booked a comfortable place on the beach. Although, to be honest, there were not very many people. The girls and I did not take instructors. We wanted to slowly enjoy the moment and explore everything around us. We just took oxygen tanks, a wetsuit, glasses, and went down into the water. As soon as we sank in, I immediately felt the water lifting my internal organs up. The water below was cooler the closer to the shore, and it was also very dark, and we needed special flashlights. I was swimming with the girls, holding hands, but then we realized that it was inconvenient. Carol decided to swim ahead and motioned for us to follow. Agnes and Tori followed her, and I decided to stop for a few seconds to take a picture with a cool fish in the background. When I looked up, I noticed that the girls were gone. It was empty and dark, and I started to panic a little. I decided that there was nothing wrong because I just needed to swim out to the top, and that's it. After taking a couple of breaths from the tank, I looked up and pushed off from the bottom. At this moment, I was somehow led sideways. I realized that the tide was coming in or out, and I was sharply spun in the abyss and lost my orientation. I didn't know where the top and where the bottom was. After I leveled off, I decided to swim forward, hoping that the girls were somewhere nearby. I saw a corridor of rocks, swam through it, and found myself in a small room of rocks. There was little space to breathe. I took off my costume and started yelling for the girls. But no one heard me. I looked at the tank and realized with horror that I had no oxygen. And then I had a real panic. I began to scream, tried to sink down to the bottom to see if any of the dangerous fish were swimming or if my girls were visible, but nothing worked. And my panic was quickly draining the air out of my lungs. I went up and down, tried to swim back through this corridor, but it was too long. I'd get stuck halfway and come back. At some point, it seemed to me that everything was over. This is how I will die, on my 15th birthday. I don't know how much time passed, probably more than 6 hours, because I started to get cold, and I was up to my chest in water. The fact that I didn't move much, didn't eat or drink anything, made my legs feel numb. I began to massage my feet in the water, then tried not to stand still, but to try to swim. But I quickly got tired, because I was already too weak. And then I got really angry and realized I didn't want to die like this. I put my tank on again, and the remaining oxygen should have been enough for me to at least get out of the corridor. I put on my phone and my glasses and swam forward with all my strength. I swam as fast as I could. All of a sudden, I felt like I was having a hard time breathing. I was out of oxygen. I took one last breath and threw the tank out the way. As I swam forward, I saw the end of the corridor. Yes! I managed to swim through it, but I didn't have the strength to go up. I was desperately catching air in the water like a fish on land, and I knew I couldn't swim out. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my lungs, stomach, nose, and ears. I suddenly felt sick and started spitting water. I opened my eyes and realized that I was lying on dry land. Someone was looking down at me, and my friends and my mother were standing next to me, crying loudly. "She's alive! Alive!" someone yelled nearby. I realized that I was pulled out and pumped out. I was so sick, I couldn't speak. An ambulance arrived a few minutes later and took me to the hospital. After 2 or 3 days, I finally ate on my own and accumulated the strength to talk. It turns out that the girl swam forward, and I was carried away by a wave and lost. And then, when I swam out of the cave, divers found my tank at the bottom and realized that I was somewhere nearby. As they swam on, they saw me, and I was no longer breathing. So miraculously, I was found and pumped out. That birthday was almost my last. In short, since then, I no longer dive without the help of a pro, and I do not advise you guys to do it either. How do you celebrate your birthdays? What birthday do you remember the most? Tell us in the comments.